It is important to get our guest under the way. It is part of Resilience Week where we tune in with someone that's got an incredible story, someone that I've only heard snippets of, and we're really excited to have him join us this morning. Good morning, Jay.
Hey Troy, how are you, man?
What's going on, Braz? How are you?
Oh yeah, pretty good. I've woken up pretty pain-free, which is a good day. I didn't think with all this coming ahead that I might have had a bit of aches and pains this morning, but it's all good. So
Far out, Jay. I don't know if you probably weren't listening beforehand, and I got the worst sleep on the planet last night, and I kid you not, I was just sitting there going, I read your bio yesterday, and Daz has told me some things, so we really trust in. Obviously, Daz's story is pretty epic, pretty heavy, and him going, "No, you got to listen to this, Jay, guys." Like,
yeah,
righto. I had 3 hours sleep, and I thought, you know what, I've probably had a good day compared to you. But it's encouraging to hear that you had a great morning this morning.
Well, I can go 3 or 4 days without sleep and not feel like I've lost a minute. And then at the same time, I can flip side to the other end and I'll sleep for 18 hours and nobody can move me. Yeah. So it's just the body, because complex regional pain deals on the parasympathetic level of the things that you do naturally, like blink, sweat, all of those types of things. So you don't have control over them. And so it's just, and like last week, you've shown the, there's a pain scale, and on the pain scale, it's actually at the top of the ladder, which is probably the worst place to be. Anywhere else in life, you'd want to be first. But with this, I've just got this condition just from an accident. And
touch on that, Jay. What you grew up in advertising? I mean, you were born and raised in Australia. Everything's going swimmingly well.
Yeah. So I was I work with Daz. I started working with Daz probably almost 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah,
and so I've had to put up with him for that long. So that's why he's hit me up with Christina Aguilera. But he also,
should we put that on the pain scale above yours? Just knowing Daz for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Where does it fit in between us?
Well prepared me. I could do anything, mate. I could do time. I could do anything. It's there's nothing that hassles me anymore. If I can sit in a room by myself for 20 days with no human contact and literally be a bubble boy, plus no Daz for 20 years, man, I could do things in my head.
I'm gonna edit that McGill pain scale chart and have a little joke going on. No, but it's epic. It's epic. Yeah, sorry, man. Continue on.
yeah. So it just so in 2015, I started having migraines, and they were really severe migraines, and started losing the feeling in my hands. I just started. Things weren't right. When I've got a very close family, and when they're not right, I went to my father and said, what should I do? And fortunately or unfortunately, he'd broken his back really severely 2 years earlier. And he was on the verge of a wheelchair pretty much. And we met this old eccentric neurosurgeon who was just crazy. And anyway, I went along to him, and I was sort of last resort meeting with him, and he saved my dad's life. And I went to a meeting with him, and he goes, "Has anyone told you you've got 2 extra ribs?" I said, "What?" He goes, "You've got 2 extra ribs." So I had 2 extra cervical ribs through here.
Right.
So there's, you might see the scars, but
you got your collar. It's under your collarbone.
Yeah. So I've got scars both sides here, where they've ripped out ribs and the scalene muscles.
How old are we talking? Sorry to give away your age here. How old are we talking?
I'm 44.
And you're just getting news now that you got a couple of extra ribs. Clearly, it wasn't bothering. It wasn't sticking out. You've never got an X-ray before in your chest, obviously.
No. I'd had a million because I'd grown up with asthma.
No one thought, let's just do a rib check.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so so since then I've found out I had 2 extra ribs, 3 extra vertebrae, and 1 less valve in my heart.
Wow.
So it's until you know, sort of thing. Like,
yeah. That's
we might all be mutants. But and so, I had the first one out, and he said it'd take 2 hours, and it took probably 3.5. And they go through the front of your neck, so you wake up and you got knee bruises on your chest because they're like, it's a violent procedure.
Right.
And then the second one was about a little bit more difficult, and it was going to take about 3 hours, and it ended up taking about 6 hours. And so that was November 2016. So in between then and now, I've given up counting because it started to become my identity. I would say I've probably done 350 to 380 nights in hospital. So you think in 5 years' time, you've spent
it's a year. You've spent
20% of your time. So it's and that's been that hasn't, I've dealt with my own range of people that are horrible, and the health system's broken. And you would walk into the office of some people and some physicians, and they'd go, literally rub their hands together and go, "Oh, here we go, another meal at Nobu."
What's that mean?
Like a Nobu, Robert De Niro's restaurant at Crown.
What do you mean? Like
I was going to pay him extra money, and they'd never find out what was wrong with me, and I was just a fancy dinner meal for him.
Oh, no way! Did you sense that when you walked into the first person, or is it after like the third person not getting anywhere? You're like, far out. These people aren't in it for me here.
It took probably at least 9 months. So I would have went through maybe 10 people. And it took until an old school nurse, and you think of an old school nurse, and she sort of said, "Oh, look, have a look at this." And it was and I looked at it and I thought, why are they checking me for if I'm taking pills to harm myself? Like, I'm not here because I like being here. I hate it in here. I want to get out. And then so I got referred to the Peter Mac and Royal Melbourne Genetic Institute, where they do familiar cancer genetic studies. And they did a genomic sequence on me, and I'm thinking, why is it taking so long? And 18 months in, and I got a result back, and they go, "We've got a result, but it's not a diagnosis." I said, "Oh, yeah, what's that mean?" And they said, "You're the first time we've seen this mutation."
What do you mean? Yeah, go on.
So at a genomic level, you've got about, somebody will correct me out there because they're smarter than me. I'm just somebody that's had my brain drained by gas for 20 years.
Go on. We've got a physio in the house. He might help you out. What do you need?
You've got about 32 to 40,000 different genomes. Right. And that your genomes make up your DNA sequence, but it's just the next level down.
Right.
And so I have got this one interleukin gene that isn't related to any disease, isn't related to any particular thing, but it has a whole batch of syndromes and symptoms that match a disease that is prevalent in my family, but it doesn't match up gene for gene. Right. So I'm sort of under the government and under the PBS and under everything. Unless you fit into a box, you don't get anything.
Wow. So undiagnosed means undiagnosed. You don't get connected to any kind of support at all.
No.
Even though
no treatment. They could say this could save you, and you could walk tomorrow, and you could feel your hands, and your nails could stop falling out, and anything that they could do. But unless you fit into a box, they're not going to give you it, even if it's available.
So from those first points of migraines, did you find any? We're fast forwarding here to kind of, let's go 2 years. All these neuros, all these doctors, all these people, all these specialists. You're clearly having a lot of doubt in the system. Were you? Is it pain? Were you finding any success?
I had no pain at this point. And
Right.
I used to whinge about pain, and I used to think I had abdominal pain. And by that stage, I'd had maybe 30 visits to emergency, and I would writhe in pain. And I would say, whatever you've got, I take it. I cannot move. My partner would have to carry me from the car, and she's like half my size, and I'm a big dude, and all this started happening, and she and they'd go in there and they'd go, well, here's some fluids, here's some Panadol, out you go, we don't know what's happening. And then when the pain come into the picture was April 19, and I just had a doctor, just a busy doctor, having a bad day. And
where are you getting this pain? Where was the first? Where?
So what he did, if you can see, if I can work out a camera, I should be able to work out how this works now.
Yeah.
So there's a spot on my wrist.
Yeah.
So that's from the cannulation attempt 2 years ago. And so he put a needle. He tried to put a needle in through to my wrist just to draw bloods. And he hit a nerve, and that nerve controls 3 fingers. And so I can't feel 3 fingers or control 3 fingers.
Right.
And so from the point of, from that insertion, that's what she said. She
keep it going. Bring it on back. Bring it back on track.
Yeah. See, it's never been the same. And so I was meant to be into hospital for 3 days that day for that stay. And it ended up being 18 nights. And then it just kept on spiraling out of control. And then it got to the point where I was having general anesthetic, nerve block, week in hospital, general anesthetic, nerve block, week in hospital, general, and it just kept on self-perpetuating. And then they started introducing 14-day infusions for ketamine and lidocaine, and you go, oh yeah, that's great. Well, being awake for 14 days isn't great, because your fight or flight is going constantly, and they're just they're just trying to there you go. That's my device that they've inserted in my back last year in June.
Tell me what's going on here, man. I wasn't lying, folks, when I said he's got a Game Boy in his shoulder. I mean, that's probably more so a CD Walkman.
It's literally got a Bluetooth signal, so I control it from my phone.
To do what?
So to turn up the frequency. What's the frequency, Kenneth? Turn it down. Change the curve of the frequency, so I can have it rounded. I can have it square. I can have the amplitude up or down. And so that is, if you think right under your shoulder blade on your back, on your right-hand side, that's where it is.
Yeah.
And then attached to that, you can sort of see at the top, there's wires that run off. And those wires run off to my vertebrae, which is my cervical spine at the top there. And so that's 6, 8, T1 and T2, which are just at the back of your neck, which run down the side of your arm and control your arm.
So why are these in there?
So that I can feel my fingers.
So it's giving your you feeling back?
Yeah. So what it's doing is it's meeting it halfway. So if you think about the pain's trying to come up from my hand, and then I've got the signal from my brain going back to my hand saying we're in pain. It's stopping it in between to bounce it. It's sort of like a ping pong match in between itself.
Right.
So I don't get that pain signal sent into my hand. I get it or into my brain, into the neurotransmitters. It tries to disperse it.
Right.
But what has happened, that's a good feeling. I've still got it, but my hand temperature is still 3 to 4 degrees different than the other one.
Is it something you get used to? Or are you used to it, or are you reminded, like, when you touch something, you go, far out, that's not, I remember the good old days when it wasn't meant to be like that.
I could walk out the door and the breeze could get it, and I could be gone for the day.
Right. And guys,
so
if
something
John.
unsuspecting gets you just go.
We were talking about the pain chart before. It's called the McGill pain scale, and it's scientifically tested. It's determined by compiling various numerical and cross-reference description words, allowing direct comparison across conditions. I'm not making this up. It's written at the top there, not small writing. This is what I think I'm seeing here. Yes. Developed by doctor, someone, whatever. But right up the top there, so we've got, like, down the bottom, tension, headache, which is where you started, and basically you've skipped most of this. You thankfully haven't had to have a child to find, amputation of a digit. You got chronic back pain in the middle there, toothache, and we've all had a toothache before. A cut is above sprain, but then right up the top there is RSD. It's CRPS. That's what you're on about, isn't it? Yeah.
So back how it originally got discovered was when old diggers were coming back from the war, and they'd have a pain in their hand. And they go, Doc, it's so bad, just cut off my hand.
Yeah, keep going, man, keep going.
And they'd still have that.
Sorry, mate, there you are. Gotcha.
And soldiers would come back from war and say, just take off my hand because I've got so much pain. And the pain would go, but the pain would stay, but the hand would go. So that's why it was called phantom limb syndrome.
We talk with Daz a little bit about this stuff, and I'm sure this relates to you. How do you get on with the day, your life, when you've got so much unknowledge about how things are going to go? Your forecasting of your life is difficult because you don't even know how you're going to wake up. How do you deal with not knowing? The unknowing.
I've had to spend a lot of work. What's that, sorry?
Positively as well. I mean, you don't want to have, no one likes bad days. So,
Well, at the start, the war, the spot where the cannula was, used to trigger off my days. And so I'd go, I'm going to have a bad day. So I've done a lot of work about embracing uncertainty and about living a chaotic life, because I've got this plus a rare gene thing. Daz has got his gear, but it doesn't make it any more or less stressful than my sister getting her 2 kids up to take them to school and then run a business. So I've got to put it into perspective.
Wow.
And part of my journey, unfortunately, I lost one of my best friends due to cancer. And
recently, are you talking about? Or you...
Yeah, 18 months ago. Yeah, and so he was a fellow named Tim Sim, and if you've got a name like Tim Sim, you've got to live up to it. And he was just it, man.
Oh, man.
And so he left behind a wife, a 2-year-old who's never going to remember her dad's voice, all of those things. So it sort of makes it hard for me to feel sorry for myself. But at the same time, I've got to give myself the gratitude and the empathy to say, do you know what? Today's a write-off. Be gentle to yourself. Because I used to go flat out, and then I'd burn myself out, and I'd be in bed for a week or in hospital for 2.
Has isolation been a real tough barrier when you talk about?
Well, Daz and I were doing it before it was cool.
I know.
We were the masters of it. So
of lockdown, yeah. But I mean, you say, you know, you just touched on saying, you know, just embracing it. You know, if you're having a bad day, not just run with it, kind of sit with it. I mean, you might need to pick me up every now and then where you kind of touch base with someone and you can't. You know? Yeah.
So I've got a great group of mates, same blokes that I've played primary school footy, basketball with, right through to now. And there's a group of, I have different groups. And I have different groups when I tell them in hospital. I have different groups when I tell them I've got emotional gear. Or I've just got people that I would just want to talk rubbish about. And that's Daz. Look, you know, where it'll be, what do you think about this shoe or that shoe? To try and maintain who I am, because it's never changed just because of gene change. And so I've got a group of people. I literally live on the same street as my sister. She's on one corner and I'm on the other. So it's a real Greek thing to do, migrate together.
Just hang out in the front brick fence.
Yeah.
Talk about everyone's olive trees.
Complain about the neighbours.
Sweep your leaves into a pile on a windy day, that kind of stuff.
As we sweep our lawn,
Concrete lawn. Mate, chronic pain's probably, you know, a friend of yours at the moment, and I hope it, you know, it doesn't want to be a part of your life forever. Are you positive about it ending? Are you locked in? Are you still trying? Are you content with your Game Boy in your shoulder and going, this is the best it's going to get, and I'm sick of it? Are you still fighting? Are you still fighting to get back to normal, to old Jay, or what are you doing? How do you deal with chronic pain?
I'm going to get back to as good as I can be. So I'm not going to be able to go back and be the boxer that can work 60, 80-hour weeks. That's not going to be in me. But I can still use what I've learned to work hard, but just not as long. And they say, when I got the device put in, it was only afterwards that they said, you know, it's a slab of paper like that. And I looked at it and I went, oh, I didn't realise that. I didn't realise that. Because at the time you just sign up for it.
Yeah, you're just like, yep.
Yeah. And so I go, yeah, do it. And then when it says you can't ride a bike, you can't go in the ocean. Last night I watched something stupid on TV and it was about roller coasters, and I love roller coasters. And for the first time, I thought I can't go on a roller coaster ever again. But who's to say I can't be the first one that beats this machine?
Do you find that little micro moment there where you've got the power to change your thought direction? Is that where it's at when we're talking about resilience? Yeah. Is that where it's at? That's what we've all got a choice to do, hey? That's when it's choice time. Do I go down the barrel and go listen to some Missy Higgins and Missy Higgins? Go where we used to do that as a teenager. You put on soppy sad songs when you're flat. You got that choice to go, no. I'm not going that way.
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing my partner has ever taught me is that it's a choice to be happy, and everyone grieves differently. So I can wake up and I can go, yeah, I already know it's an 8 out of 10. And I can say, that can stuff me for the day. Or I can go, well, if I go for a walk, it might come back to a 6. Or if I go and do Pilates, it might come down to a 4. And at the same time, how I've chosen to grieve what's happened to me, because it's an accident. I've got PTSD. It's no different to being cleaned up in a car accident, except it was in a medical setting. And I can either be really angry at that and get nothing achieved, or push forward and push my team of experts to say, what about this? What about that? And just my most recent hospital stay, I got slipped a note to play dumb.
Right.
And, you know, that's sort of shut up and take your medicine. And that's not me. And I guess Daz's joke of playing the fighter on the way through, I come from a history of fighters. Big history. And so only the bravest step through the ropes. You know, last week you spoke with Danny Green, and I made those ads with Danny Green.
Yeah, cool.
You know, so like, I'm not saying I'd like to be Danton, but I've got the resilience of someone like him, because, you know, I had what they call a sort of seizure type of thing, but it's not a seizure in itself. In front of a doctor 6 weeks ago, and he recoiled into the corner because he didn't know what to do. And so, and it was funny, at the same time, my partner has walked in the room. She said, "Oh, have you paid for my parking? Do you want a coffee?" And I had a Met call in the room.
Right.
And so that's about perspective. And that's not to say that I laugh my way through it all, because it's shit. Big sorry for the language.
What's your week? So Jay 2015 compared to Jay 2021, June or whatever the date it is. What's different? What's different? What's some real? What are you doing today? And what's your week look like? And
on average, I'd have 4 to 6 medical appointments. I'd have Pilates 3 times a week. I can't drive because of the medications that I'm on. There's all these different types of side effects from the medication. So my reliability, I could say, oh yeah, I'll help out a friend with some advertising stuff, but then they might not hear from me for 3 weeks. But I have to do it, and I just have to keep on trying to find my normal, because if I've already done all the rehab clinics where they put you through physical rehab. And I don't want to be the 60, 70-year-old dude in there listening to their old-timey tunes, crying, and they're miserable places.
I was gonna ask you that, Jay. Do you find you've chosen to be positive or to be it's a bit flippy, the positive word. You've chosen to fight it and make a choice. You're gonna have a better day than what you're designed to do right now. You're gonna go that way and have a crack. Do you hear other people nearby, next to you, in your world, in your physical world, people that are battling things, crying, having bad days, and they're having it tough. They're struggling.
The nickname of the disease by physicians is the suicide disease, and it takes about a quarter of people with it. And so I do hear that. I do hear the whimpers. I do hear the howls when you get the diagnosis, and at the same time I have them, because you can imagine last year being in lockdown, and just in lockdown I had 60 days by myself. So, and not even a nurse can touch it. They've got gloves on, their gowns on, they've got masks, and you just take for granted all of that stuff that you miss when you're in the community. And so I might seem positive now, but I do this thing with my father where I fill in how I really feel. And he bounces back how he really feels. And the first day that I did it, within 5 minutes, he rang me up. He said, "Do it again."
Why? Because he didn't think you didn't dig around hard enough?
Yeah, because he said, "What am I going to get out of it if you don't dig in?" If I tell people, "Oh, my pain's only an 8," and he can see that I can't walk, what's the point of telling people I'm an 8? And so, I was a reluctant, and I still am a reluctant patient of the health system. But over time, you have to concede. You have to say, I'm not the smartest person in here, but I can ask questions. I can hear your advice. I don't have to take it. And you can make choices the whole way through. And putting a device in my back, that sounds great, but it also means for the rest of my life, every 4 to 5 years, I'm going to have to get a new device put in and go through all of the trauma and rehab once again. But that's a better option for me to feel my 3 fingers.
Just to clarify, I heard this right. This is just from a needle going in your wrist.
Yeah, man.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know what would you do. You got to ask yourself, what would you do? What would you do? I don't know. I don't know if anyone would do. Maybe you do. I don't know. It's crazy. I would, because every day people would go, how do you know about this? Do you talk about the needle in the arm because that does trigger? Do you go, hey, by the way, it was an accident? And then other people will go, far out, you'd want to smack that doctor around, or they start trying to tell you what you should feel. And you're like, no, we're not going there today. Yeah. It's a good day today. I got my Game Boy on my shoulder. I'm ready to rock. Get out of my way. Yeah. You've got to constantly pull people 100%. Out of where they want to go.
The funny thing is, well, it's not a funny thing. One of my smart-ass friends, Hannah, said, "What's my real name?" And I have a real name, right? And that's good because that's what they call me in hospital.
Right, right.
So I don't associate Jay with being at home.
Yeah, right.
And then at the end is Marius. And Marius is the one that comes and solves the problem. So we've got three little beasts.
Yeah, you want to go? Yeah, let's go.
And so patient over here will go, yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full. Jay will go, why are you doing that? And Marius will go, get away from me.
Yeah.
And it's actually been, it sounds a strange way to approach it, but it's actually been the way that my psychiatrist has told me to keep myself.
Yeah, right.
Because if I lose those parts and I go, oh, this is admission 55 and I'm up to 380 nights and it's cost me 600 grand. Well, yeah, you know, like nothing can change it now. I can't undo the needle.
Yeah, exactly. Someone just asked, have you struggled with letting go of anger at the situation? Does it creep in?
Yeah.
Does it creep in?
Yeah, heaps.
Yeah.
Heaps. I spoke with my psychiatrist last week about it.
Yeah.
Because there's situations where I still see the person who did it to me. And I don't have a choice.
Are they still in a job?
Yeah.
Should they be?
Doing Jay, patient or Mario?
Marios. This is a question for Marios.
They might be late for work.
Jade, oh man.
Yeah, so no, there is a lot of anger. And so that's why I said, you know, grieving is different. Because I do grieve differently. And there was a stage at the start where I told everyone. And then after your 200th night, and it's still the same 6 people that are visiting you, why do you tell 200?
Yeah. Jay, this is an epic way to kick off the week. You are an incredible human being. I'm sure you are before 2016, but I mean, we're here to...
Yeah, I've always been born to run to the fire.
Yeah,
I've always been a fighter, not a fighter. It's the only way that I can get through this is that accepting that it's me.
Are we all fighters? Are we all fighters?
No.
So, yeah.
No.
That's reality.
No.
Hey, some
it's why Danny talks about coward punches, because everyone wants to be king of the jungle. And having been to the jungle of Kenya, there's only one king. There's only one queen. And there's a hierarchy. And everyone wants to think that they can be the big bad man, do whatever, but they're not fighters. I wish they were.
Jay, I hope you've inspired some people here. I think everyone's pretty okay with their life. I mean, we've got some people. I don't know everyone in the chat here. I don't know your story, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that are feeling a little bit better at themselves. Today's a good day, especially talking with you. But you know what we've got going on in our lives. Perspective. You mentioned gratitude. You mentioned empathy. And that fight, man, you're an impressive human being, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Anytime, brother. I'm happy to do it. It's an important part of it is to educate people. Because Daz and I we haven't changed.
Yeah.
We're still the same moron from 20 years ago.
Speaking of Daz, he's probably lurking, trying to get in this Zoom room, going, hey, I've got something to say about this. I got something to say about this. Put me in the ring with him. Put me in. Jay, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate your time. And, man, we'll catch up with you any old time. Make sure you check in with us and stay in touch. It's a pleasure.
All right, thanks for the opportunity, Troy.
Man, you're a good man. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Cheers, bro. Bye.